Alright, it's Henry again, and this is my review of the B Club 1:100 scale Nightingale. Alright, so this is what the B Club Nightingale is going to look like straight out of the box, unpainted. Just wanted to assemble the kit and show it off before I got the painting on him. It's a very, very large kit, a very heavy kit. In fact, it's so heavy that my rotating display base won't even rotate. In fact, I turn it on and it's trying its best, but Nightingale's so heavy that it can't rotate, so I'm just going to have to do it by hand. But a very large kit, very impressive looking in my opinion. Nightingale has always been one of those love it or hate it designs. I'm actually a really big fan of the Nightingale, otherwise I wouldn't have bought it obviously. But very, very large, imposing model kit. I'll definitely be doing some size comparisons later on in the review, because this guy, his size is just something you have to see him compared to another kit to really get a good grasp of it. A very nicely detailed kit, lots of separate parts for like color separation, so not gonna have to do too very much masking on this guy, just a little bit here and there, but proportions are pretty good, and the detail and the articulation is better than the 1:144 scale version. So just a very nice kit straight out of the box, and let's see, hopefully it'll look even nicer once it gets painted up. Alright, so after getting completely painted, this is what the Nightingale ends up looking like. Being a Char mobile suit, obviously it's all in red, or mostly red anyway. And I went with pretty much the standard color scheme. Red for the outer armor, white propellant tanks, yellow on the insides of all the thrusters, and then gray for all the joints, or multiple shades of gray anyway, just to make it a little bit more interesting. So it's a very, very nice looking kit. Very large, very imposing mobile suit. B Club did do a really good job detailing this kit. Just the details on the armor are really, really well done. There's a lot of springs. We get a lot of springs with this kit. As you can see, there's one, actually two down around the neck. There's a very large spring that goes around the waist all the way to the back. Even got some smaller springs back there. For energy cables, we've got springs on the beam rifle, so lots of use of metal parts. Another thing that this kit had that I can't really show you, but it came with all of the necessary metal rods and pins to do all of the assembly. Most resin kits you buy won't include that. You're going to have to provide your own metal rods. But B Club was nice enough to include all of the metal rods necessary for assembly, as well as a plastic rod that was actually used in the elbow joints, and a variety, a multitude of polycaps used in this kit as well, that really, really help make articulating this guy a lot simpler than if I was attempting to do the articulation myself, which I've had to do before, and isn't always easy. In fact, is very, very rarely easy. So B Club definitely gets a thumbs up for prepping us for this kit, giving us everything we need to do the kit in one box. The only thing that I had to provide was the water slide decals. That's the only thing the kit didn't come with. Alright, so this is Nightingale. You're also going to get a few accessories. You're going to get a shield. Very, very nice looking. Simple. Doesn't have, well, has one moving part. The little arm mount can rotate, but other than that, it's all one solid piece. You get a beam rifle, which you just saw. Very nice. It has a little bit of articulation on it. I'll show you that later. You get a handle for the beam sword / beam axe. Unfortunately, this brings us to my really one major complaint about the kit, is that we don't get any beam effect parts. No parts molded in clear resin. I would have even been happy if the beam effect parts had been molded in solid colored resin, but we didn't get any at all, so that was kind of unfortunate. I did make some, but I'll discuss those later on in the review. And we get 2 closed fists. You get 1 trigger finger hand. As you can see, I've got it here on the beam rifle. And then you're going to get 2 open hands like so. So that is everything you get in the box. This is what the Nightingale looks like painted. So now it's about time to get on to articulation. Alright, so this is probably going to be the most challenging part of this review, simply because of the size and weight of this kit. So I can't promise it's going to go very smoothly, but I'll try to make it as painless as possible. So anyway, originally the head was fixed pose. It just had 2 pegs that went into the neck. I thought that was kind of lame, so I put in a little polycap ball joint. So we do have some up and down movement now, and some side to side, as limited as Nightingale's head movement is. A little bit of side to side like that as well. The mono eye doesn't move, it's glued in place, but I did glue a little clear green little jewel in there for the mono eye. The shoulder armors can go up and down. They're on polycaps. Just about everything in this kit is articulated with polycaps, so the movement and everything is pretty smooth. So that's one good thing about the articulation. Let's see, these binders right here. Really, all they can do is rotate like so. Now, on the 1:144 scale kit, I will give it credit, it had better articulation because it actually had a ball joint for the binders, but here they just rotate. But then again, the limited articulation is actually kind of a blessing in disguise because, again, the weight issues. The weight issues are always something you have to consider with this kit, because if these big old binders were on a ball joint, they'd be drooping down to the floor. So I think having them just being able to rotate is actually a good thing in this case. Alright, let me rotate him around a little bit. These propellant tanks are all on ball joints, all polycap ball joints, as well as these thrusters right here are also on polycap ball joints. They're kind of tight, but they do have a little bit of wiggle around room. The back skirt doesn't move at all. It's fixed in place with metal rods, so it doesn't have any articulation, which again is probably for the better. Alright, for the arms. The arms, again, kind of like the binders, don't have great articulation, but for the sake of holding the giant weapons this guy comes with is actually sort of a good thing. The shoulder, you're only going to get rotation. There's no up and down. Well, a little bit, but that's just kind of because of the polycap. You're just going to get rotation. Also, move this out of the way, rotation at the elbow, and then you're going to get a joint at the elbow that's going to bend, honestly, about 45 degrees, not even quite 90 degrees. Well, a little more than 45, but definitely not quite 90 degrees. So articulation of the arms is limited, unfortunately. The wrists are on pegs, as you can see. Let me pull that out. It's actually quite a large peg, so those just peg in. Again, not anything near as good as articulation on a kit these days, but again, for the sake of the weight and size of this kit, the simplistic articulation actually comes in handy. Alright, I'm going to rotate him around a bit more so we can get a look at these front skirts, because the front skirts actually are pretty interesting. Alright, now the front skirts are on a polycap. Actually, I'm going to pull this out and show it to you. It just sort of pegs in there, and then you've got this polycap that can go up and down. It's actually pretty sturdy. I haven't had any weight issues with it, so it seems to be holding up pretty well. And then we've got these sub-arms. I really, really like these. Bandai did a much better job on the 1:100 scale sub-arms than they did on the 1:144 scale one. Now these guys, they can fold out. You got a double joint right there. And then each of these little fingers are individually articulated. You got 3 fingers, each one moves separately, and then you've got rotation there. Again, all of this is all done with polycaps, and it works out pretty darn well, I think. Like I said, much better than it did on the 1:144 scale kit. So I really like the sub-arms on this guy. In fact, maybe my favorite part of the entire kit. So got a little recessed area down here that they can fit into, and normally, I mean, you can fold them out without having to take the front skirt out, but I just took it out so I could show it to you better. The side skirts, they're on ball joints, but they really don't have a lot of room to move at all. They're kind of pinned between the front skirts, and they're pinned up against the back skirt, so even though they're on a ball joint, they can just wiggle around a little bit. The hips, let's see, this is where things are going to get really kind of difficult when we start messing with these legs. I'm just going to sort of pick him up by the back skirt. The hips have forward and back movement, no side-to-side movement at all, just forward and back. They do have rotation at the hip. They can rotate at the hip, like so. Sorry, my hand's kind of in the way. The knee bends, again, kind of like the elbow. It doesn't bend very much, but it does bend. Let's see if I can get that where you can see it. You're going to get about, yeah, it's about a 45-degree angle. Not very much of a bend at all, but Nightingale's not a very acrobatic mobile suit anyway. Rotation at the knee as well. Now the ankles on this kit are actually surprisingly nice. If I can kind of do this little balancing act here to show it off to you. You've got rotation at the ankle. Again, that's a polycap. And then you've got a system of polycap hinges and things in here where it's going to give you a front and back movement, side to side, lots of front and back and side to side movement. And then you've got plenty of rotation. But it's not a ball joint, it's all just a system of polycaps. It's like 3 different joints. Really, really well done ankle joint on this guy. These little toes on the feet don't move. I think they did on the 1:144 scale kit, but it was honestly kind of pointless. So I'm sort of glad they just pinned those in place and had them fixed pose on this guy. So, let's see, does that do it for articulation? I believe it does. I think that was just about everything, and we got through it without any major catastrophes. So let's move on to the weapons and accessories. Now, the first accessory I'll show you is the beam rifle. It's actually quite large. Slightly, well, about as tall as Nightingale itself. It's actually taller than your average master grade 1:100 scale Gundam model kit. I say it's about 8 or 9 inches tall. So anyway, very, very nicely detailed though. As you can see, we've got a spring here, 2 little springs down there, and a very large spring going down the center. So nice metal details on it. The hand sort of pins into place, the trigger finger hand there. And you've got a stand down here that'll flip out, and those can come out so he can support that while he's firing. And just really, really well done beam rifle. Doesn't have any moving parts other than that, but just really, really nice looking. And all you got to do is switch out the closed fist for the trigger finger hand, and Nightingale holds it. Now, he can hold it, but I will admit the arm is not quite strong enough to hold it out at full extension. Again, the recurring theme here with this kit being weight issues. Now, you can prop it up and have it propped against the side skirt like so. So let's see if I can do that a little bit better. And get kind of a outward pose like so. So he's sort of firing it out like that, but it's going to have to be propped up against that side skirt in order for him to be holding it up, because the arm just doesn't have the strength, unfortunately. Next accessory I'll show off will be the shield. Very, very similar to Sazabi's shield. In fact, it's the most similar part of Nightingale to Sazabi. Same general shape, but just a little bit different. The back of the shield, again, almost identical to Sazabi's. It's got 3 little missiles here. Got the arm mount right here. That's on a polycap that can rotate. And it's just got a little hole right there. And it'll simply peg in like so. And, you know, he's not going to be able to hold it up in the air, but at least he holds it off the ground, so you're not going to have it, you know, falling off or anything, but, yeah, shield. And the last accessory Nightingale comes with is the handle of the beam sword / beam axe. It's actually quite nice. It's all one solid piece, very nicely sculpted, but there's a problem with it. It doesn't come with any beam effect parts. So that's really one of my main complaints about the kit is no beam effect parts. I would have been perfectly happy if they just, you know, molded the whole thing, beam effect part and all, as one solid piece, and I could have just at least painted them yellow, but they didn't even give us that option. So, a while back, several months ago, I actually did a resin casting tutorial for casting clear resin parts, and I took the beam effect parts from Master Grade Sazabi and recast them in clear yellow resin. And the reason I did that was specifically for this model kit. So now we have nice beam effect parts for Nightingale. As you can see, it doesn't line up exactly because this isn't Master Grade Sazabi's beam sword handle, but it lines up well enough that it fits on there, and I think it actually looks halfway decent. And as well, you know, beam axe blade that can also go in there. There we go. And the beam saber, I just molded all in one solid piece of clear yellow resin and then just painted the handle red. And as you can see, you can get Nightingale to hold the beam sword in his trigger finger hand, but he really doesn't hold onto it very well. It's actually quite loose. The hand was just designed to hold the beam rifle rather than the beam sword, so that's really what it comes down to. But you can just kind of prop it in there and have him holding it like this. In fact, I find that the best way to use the beam sword is to actually use it with the little sub-arms that are up under the front skirts. They actually hold onto it a lot better than the trigger finger hand, so I imagine that's what I'll be doing whenever I put this guy out on display. And if the sub-arms can hold that big old beam sword, then obviously they're not going to have any trouble holding the beam axe or the beam saber. And for storage, the beam axe, just like Sazabi, can be stored on the underside of the shield. There's a little pin down in there, and it just slots right in there like so. And of course the last accessory, which we can't forget, are Nightingale's funnels. Now there's really not much to them. They're simply in here. There's a little metal pin down in there that they plug onto, and they're all just one solid piece. Got some little thrusters on them, got a little beam gun on the end, and they fit right back in there. And we get 10 of them, 5 on each binder. Pretty simple, really. I did want to take a moment to show you some of the detail that's up under the armor. One thing I like about resin kits is that they really pay attention to the detail up under the armor, and while most of the time most people aren't going to see it, it's just nice that it's there, and for those of us who like to paint, it's kind of fun to paint, and it just adds a nice little level of detail to your kits, like detail up under the feet, and even like these little pistons right here, not pistons, hydraulics in the feet, painted those chrome. Can't even really see them because of the leg armor, but they're there. detail up under the side skirts, lots of detail. There's actually a second set of propellant tanks up under these two large propellant tanks under the back skirts. You can barely even see them, but they're there. And lots of panel lining and little details. Lots of detail up under the binders, all those thrusters. You got the little sub arms and more detail up under the side skirts, or front skirts rather. So just lots and lots of good stuff, and a really nice job on B Club's part detailing this kit. And before we wrap up, I did want to do a couple of comparisons. Here's the B Club 1 to 100 scale Nightingale compared to its 1 to 144 scale cousin. So you can see, obviously they're the same mobile suit, but there are some design differences between the two. I'm not going to stand here and go over all of them, but just subtle design changes on the shield and the shoulder armor and the torso area and the legs, and just all over just subtle design changes between the two kits. Really, the only way, in my opinion, that the 1 to 144 scale kit is better is I think it has better proportions than the 1 to 100 scale kit. But in terms of detail, articulation, range of movement, and stability, the 1 to 100 scale kit beats the 1 to 144 scale in every way. Just everything else was done much, much better on the 1 to 100 scale Nightingale. So proportions are the only thing the 1 to 144 scale kit has got. And of course I couldn't make this video without comparing the Nightingale to its rival mobile suit that I recently built, the High Nu Gundam. This is the Master Grade High Nu Gundam, which is already a pretty big Master Grade if, for those of you who have built it. And as you can see, Nightingale is still much, much larger, so just another emphasis on the size of this gigantic kit. So that about does it for my review of the B Club 1 to 100 scale Nightingale. It's not a perfect kit, but there is a lot to like about this kit. There are some weight issues, but then again I think that's going to be the case with just about any Nightingale kit you buy, no matter who makes it, or if it's posable or fixed pose. Pretty much any Nightingale kit is going to have weight issues. Well, I don't know, the 1/220th scale Nightingale might be light enough that weight won't matter too much, but all the other Nightingales, especially the 1 to 100 scale ones, are going to have weight issues. It's pretty much unavoidable. So I'm not going to judge the kit too harshly on that. The lack of beam effect parts really being my only other complaint. I just feel like it was kind of a shame that B Club decided not to throw those in. Other than that, I really, really like the kit. The detail on the kit, the outside of the armor and the underside of the armor was really, really well done, I thought. The color separation was actually pretty good. Despite being a resin kit, a 1 to 100 scale resin kit at that, I really didn't have to do all that much masking and hand brushing on this guy. A lot of the parts were already, the colors were separated for me. And there was a lot of part separation. This kit had a lot of parts. About as many as I don't want to say as many as a Master Grade, because that's not true, because it doesn't have an inner frame, but more parts than your average high grade. You know, if they made a high grade Nightingale, it probably wouldn't have this many parts on it. But still, just really, really well engineered. I think that's what I'm trying to get at, is really well engineered kit. The weapons and accessories that it does come with are very, very nice. I thought they did an excellent job on this beam rifle. It's really, really well done. The shield, simple but effective. I mean, there's not much else you can do with the shield. And I've already talked about the beam sword and beam axe. The funnels, again, kind of like shield, simple but effective. There's really not much else you can do to them. The overall look of the kit, I think, looks really, really nice. Like I said, I think the 1 to 144 scale one had better proportions, but this one has a lot better detail. Just all of these little like screws and these little minus molds and everything, and the springs really add a lot of nice visual quality to the kit. And just different layers of detail. Like I talked about all the different propellant tanks up under the back skirt that you can't even really see until you get up under there and look at them, and all the detail that's up under the binders there as well. Just really close attention to detail on B Club's part for this kit. What else can I say about it? It's a very, very nice kit. It is an expensive kit. Your best bet, if you really like this kit and you think you want to buy it, your best bet is to go on Yahoo Japan Auctions and just do a daily search. In fact, that's what I do. Get up in the morning, drink my coffee, check my email, and search Yahoo Japan Auctions. I just do a search for B Club, see if anything interesting pops up. And these 1/100 scale Nightingales will pop up, I don't know, maybe every couple months or so you'll see one. The 1/144 scale kit seems to be more common, but you do see these every couple months on there. But if you are thinking about buying it, you know, don't be shocked when it costs in a lot of money, because it is a lot of money. It's a very large kit and sort of a rare kit, but it's a very, very nice kit and will look good on anybody's display shelf and will definitely draw attention to anyone looking at your collection. So that about does it for this review, and with that, I will see you guys next time.